Hello guys, welcome back. Nowadays, tools to build websites are no longer complicated like in the late 90s. In the past, building a website could be a complicated job and require many real men to develop it. Now, a single person could build an entire website by himself. This producing many self-made millionaires in the tech industry. You can take a look at the founder of Tumblr, David Karp, who coded the first version of Tumblr and a couple of years later sold the company for $1 billion to Yahoo. Many developers who took over his code base said that it would be scary to even fix the website's codes because it might break the entire thing. Well, he was smart enough to build the first version of the website and managed to hire people who are way smarter than him. The point is, right now, if you have an idea for a web application, you can build it yourself and test it out on the market as soon as possible. And there are a lot of tools that can help you fasten development time. In this lecture, we are going to look at the main technology that we will be using throughout the course, Node.js. It is a server-side language that was invented using JavaScript, C++, and with the help of Google V8 engine. V8 engine is a culprit that empowers Google Chrome. If you have, ever used Google Chrome compared to other web browser, it is blazingly fast. Although most of the codes that empower Google Chrome is C++, we won't be learning that beast, of course. Instead, we are going to use one of the easiest language to learn to build the application, which is JavaScript. So, if you haven't installed Node.js, so let's go to Google Chrome and go to nodejs.org and go to download and go ahead and download whichever platform are you on, Windows, Macintosh. I already installed it. So I'm going to go to terminal and I'm going to check Node-V. Most of the APIs or the URLs will be created using Node.js and its libraries. I swear to God, learning Node.js has changed my life because after learning Node.js, I never look back because it is fairly easy to build a website in a matter of minutes. Writing Node.js codes could be a little weird in the beginning because if you're used to using other programming languages like Python or Ruby, but once you get the hang of it, it will be really easy technology to use. You could create APIs, websites, real-time applications like stock market, chat applications, and many more. Tinder, Medium, and LinkedIn are all created by Node.js. Heck, even PayPal is moving its code base into using Node.js. So let's go ahead and we're going to test the power of Node.js. So currently the version is 6.3 to 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new directory and we're going to give it node test, cd to node test, and I want you to create a new, let's go ahead and type atom dot to open up the editor. And once open, what I want to do, I want you to create a new file, right click again, I'm going to give it a name, playground.js. So you need to know only a few things. One is variables, two is array, 3 is how to loop an array, 4 is functions, and finally callback functions. You just need to know these 5 things, okay? And let's start with variables. There are 2 types of variables. One is a normal variable, which will be rush. This is a simplest, this is a variable. You store a string or a number. Let's say a number. This is a variable. This is the first type of variable. The second type is constant. Let's say another name goes to hello. All right. And then we want a console log name, number, and another name. So let's go to terminal and test it out. Node playground. So now it's showing rush1223 hello. So you can change the value of a normal variable. So if you change this to Batman, and if you console log the name, it would be Batman. So let's run and it shows Batman. But if you try to change another name, then you will get an error to Joker. And if you console log another name and you go back to terminal and try to run the code, you receive an error that's saying assignment to constant variable, meaning you cannot change the original value of the constant to another value. It just doesn't work that way. That's why it's called constant, while normal variable you can change to whatever you want. So next up is an array. So next is array equals to 10, 9, 6, 7. All right. Array is a container that holds a data set. You can store multiple data in the array. In our case, we store 10, 9, 6, and 7. Simple as that. You will see a lot of arrays when building web application later on. And if you console log array, if you run, it will just show the container. But how do we console log individual data like 10, 9, 6, or 7 alone? You can do console log array and then the index name. Okay, and then when you run, it will type 10. But imagine you have hundreds of data. There will be troublesome to type array 0, array 1, array 2. No problem. There's a way to solve that problem. We're gonna use loop. So to loop, we're gonna type in for I equals to 0. I is less than the array length equals to I plus plus, and you want to console log each of the number in the array. Let's go ahead to terminal and let's run this, and it will loop every single one. Okay, let's delete this because I don't want to get us confused. Save this, run, and it will run each of the data in the array. So what is it saying is, start at position 0, which is, array starts at 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? And then if the array.length is equals or less than 4, it's currently the length is 4 because 1, 2, 3, 4, then you want to, increase the amount of I by 1. Like right now it's 0, and then, when you go to another round, it will add by 1. Simple as that. But, I don't like this way of running, loop. I have another way, which is array.map function each and console log each. It does the same thing, and if you run, it's the same thing. Technically, it does the same way, but in a more efficient way. I prefer this way of looping an array. Next up is function, so we're going to delete this. So, let's go ahead and give it a name. Name equals to, for example, like names equals to hello, and then like name equals to Joker. Instead of writing code line by line, you can group it and put it in a function, and then you can reuse it many times. And naming, you can put this too in here, and then you can just run this, or you can console log if you want. So this is how you name a function, and then whatever name you want, and a bracket, and then you put whatever instructions you want in here. And lastly, if you want to run this function, you just call it naming and then bracket. That's it. Function is a set of instructions. The final piece of the puzzle that you need to understand is to write the Node application called callback. So let's go back to our keynote and run this again. So callback in action. We want to see callback in action. And you know why I'm going to teach you this? Because you are going to use a lot of callbacks. What is callback? Callback is simply a function you pass into another function so that that function can call it at a later time. For example, we have two separate functions, and then both are just a function, okay? And then using the callback function, call the callback function. And what will happen is once you run this code, it will just show rush, and then I'm using a callback function. So it will run rush, and then only it will run the I'm using a callback function. It's quite confusing, but technically, callback function is a function that you pass to another function so that another function could have called it at a later time. Okay, let's see another example. For example, imagine we have two separate operations, database operations, and we have another operation which will only console log I am home. So, if you will run this code in sequence, usually you have to wait for the database operation to be completed, then only console log will run. But with Node.js, which one do you think will run first? Obviously, I am home. Because you know why? The database operation will take time to finish. Thus, why it runs console log first. This is good actually, if you don't want to wait for the database operation to wait. Instead, Node will run other processes first, and only after the database process has finished, then it will call up Node and hey, come back here. It is like, Mongoose is telling Node that, hey, my task will be finished a little bit late. Can you proceed doing other work first? Then I will call you back once I'm done. Thus, why Node run console.log first? These are the knowledge you guys need to start writing codes. Variables, functions, array, callback functions, and how to loop. And later on, you're going to see a lot of names like callback, next, done, and CB. These are all just naming convention when you name a callback function. Nothing to be afraid of. So we just learned what is Node.js and what it could do, and what companies are using it. In the next lecture, we are going to learn HTTP methods. And remember, stay hungry and stay foolish.